for the transcoder to come up, and there we are. Okay, good. Let's start the music. Here we go. We start from the very beginning. We want the beginning. There we go.
So you want to be
So you want to be a cool kid. Hanging with the insect. Looking real. Cool and fine. Here we go. Coming to the drum bridge. Get ready, Martin. Here we go. My sticks are in the other room. Bop, 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 bop. Thank you very much to the voice and music of Serge Hoffman, my former colleague. He's in Paris. He's a composer. And those are my words. I'm Bonnie D, and we're happy to be here. I am debuting a spin-off series. Many of you, I think, or a few of you have been watching my We Dish Two Saucy Dames. And I had the idea, I can't leave the guys out. That just isn't fair. So I went to my good friend, Martin S. We only use last initials on this show. And I said, what could we do? What could we call you? And we decided, I think I decided to call him a cool dude. So welcome, Martin. Wave hello. There you are. And I think we're streaming, oh my goodness, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Yes, I have given myself permission as a saucy dame to have fun on these live broadcasts on our LinkedIn channel. Facebook always has fun. YouTube is allowing anything. But Martin, I've probably broken a bunch of rules by having a show where we can laugh and have a good time. Martin, how are you?
Yeah, absolutely. These days, probably.
Martin, I want to read a little poem to introduce us. And I have a poem I wrote for you. I co-wrote for you. We'll talk about that later. And then we're going to get a little bit about you and we'll find out how come you're a cool dude, or how do you define that? So here we go. You know us well, Bonnie D and Martin S. too, seasoned in tech, and we love what we do. From LinkedIn's halls to social's embrace, we share insights in our savvy people space. Now here on We Dish, we're here to play, lightening up life in our uniquely fresh way. Here comes the good part. Martin S. came to the U.S. to work for weeks, or so he thought. But 25 years later, a tech-focused career he's proudly wrought. Now a pilot with beehives, bikes, and kids' life's full speed embrace, residing in the mountains near Mount Rainier's serene face. Baking German bread and family meals fill the air. He's created a life well lived with love and care to spare. Living each day at his bold pace. What next will he dare? Yes, Martin S. is a cool dude with unique style and flair. What do you think?
That's
right.
awesome. I might
Good.
have to put that into my new bio. It's like
You
it's
can
much more
borrow it. I
exciting
won't
than
charge you.
what
We're,
happened.
we're friends. So finishing up, chatting up. We're here to chat on culture, wacky news we adore, music, food, laughter, and oh, so much more. No politics here. Just joy and delight. Join us live or on demand, day or night. We won't be here, but you can find us. Meet us for real in our live streaming glow. Are you in the glow, Martin? I think he's glowing. Comments are welcome. Just be nice. You know, you know. We dish two saucy dame and a cool dude. Bonnie D and Martin S. dishing on life's happy tude. What do you think? Cool?
I love it. It's really cool. I mean, you got everything in there. I was thinking about an introduction of myself, but you got it all covered. So I'm like, we can right right to the next topic.
I'm very glad. Well, you know, my full disclaimer, Martin S., is that I have a friend and she's my virtual assistant and she's called ChatGPT. I have to give her a name. I've tried. I keep forgetting her name. And I gave her you sent me a beautiful story about everything you've done, things I didn't even know. And you've been on my Technology Revolution show for years now, but I knew only this much about you, like 2%. And now I know about 80%. And I fed her your long story and she came up with 6 lines. And I said, that's not enough. We got to get a line in there about cool dude. So I added those. I edited it and I added those. So welcome, Martin. Martin, why don't you, anything in the blanks you want to fill in before we get going on our topics?
No, I think you covered it all. You know,
Okay.
it's sort of I think I'm a mixed blend between. I always describe it. I think by now I'm living in Bermuda, at least virtually, because I sort of left Germany. You know, I came to the US, but I still have things from both sides. And sometimes it feels a little bit like split personality disorder, but in a good way, you know? So,
I feel like split personality all the time on my radio shows. Martin, okay, you and I came up with the idea. I said, "How do you feel about being called a cool dude?" I'm a saucy dame. You're a cool dude, and I said, if you want to own that, you've got to come up with a couple of songs, rock and roll songs, any genre you like, where the titles define or describe you as a cool dude. So, what have you got, Martin? Talk to me.
So I started out with my most favorite song, and it sort of might age me, but it's "Home of the Brave" by Toto.
Ooh,
Just sort of because I think there's some sort of you know interest there in order to be brave, and I think with what I have done over the years it took a little bit of braveness to sort of push the limits of what I had done and jump into a lot of pools of cold water. So that's the first one.
okay.
Love the song. There's a 9-minute version. Could rock off on it every single day. Just on the way to bring the kids to school, we just jammed into it in a car. So it was really exciting. The next one was "Dead or Alive" by Bon Jovi. Love
Okay.
that song. But it also is one of those things where you see, um, you just have to enjoy life to its fullest. And sometimes I think we as a society just don't appreciate what we have. It's always about want more, need more, rather than once in a while, I always look at my family and say, hey, I'm so glad that I'm where I'm at. I'm in a solid position. I have a great family, so appreciate what you have. So be alive rather than the dead one. And
So
then the
that
last
makes
one
you cool.
is,
That makes you a cool dude because you appreciate you're alive. I like that.
yeah.
I like.
And
Okay,
the
go
last
ahead.
one is sort of an homage to my hometown, Hanover, Germany. There's a band called the Scorpions. Haven't been too popular for a while, but they have a song that's called "Rock You Like a Hurricane." And it's sort of it also shows that by the way, if you have good music going, you will find me on the dance floor. I'm not one of those guys that stands on the side. I'm the one that is right in there. And that's how I met my wife. So it's a great reminder of, don't be afraid. Coming back to the brave part, don't be afraid of being the guy that even though you might be the only one on the dance floor, but if there's a good song, that's where you find me. So those are the three that I had.
I love your three. By the way, I was a dance teacher years ago. I don't know if you know that. I was one of the disco queens in Eugene, Oregon.
Oh,
I had a
oh.
yeah. What? You saying? Oh, you want to say something?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's one thing that you bring up, which I haven't told you. I
Uh-oh.
actually danced in a rock and roll formation as a when I grew up. So yeah, I threw, girls up and caught them, and so it was good. So yeah, I
Well,
can totally appreciate that.
I danced in a disco Hawaii contest with my partner Michael. This was many, many years ago, and we opened to let's see, we came in third. We didn't know that the person who came in first owned her own dance studio, and nobody knew that till after. Kind of, yeah, kind of cheating.
Yeah.
Anyway, what was I going to say? We came into Donna Summers, Heaven Knows, da 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 da. Da. I was 98 pounds. Michael was a skinny, tall, blonde with a mustache was probably bigger than he was. And his mother sewed his costume, his top. It was hammered silk blue. I did all my own clothes at that point. So I sewed a top with little straps and a black satin skirt that was a 360 circle, Martin, that tied with a big band at the waist and it was completely open. So when I did my lifts and my spins, I was 98 pounds and I had legs that went forever. I got to tell you, people stopped me and said, "Oh my God." I shouldn't even say that. This is before Me Too, kids. Nobody got upset. And so we came in from opposite sides. Michael did the lift right in the middle of the dance floor, spun me in like a death drop, and then down to the floor, turned me 360 about 2 inches off of the floor, and then stood me up. And we did our routine of Heaven Knows. And it was unbelievable. I still, I think I have pictures somewhere, but we did
Nice.
exhibition dancing and we taught disco and I taught line dances and I invited the senior ladies I was teaching. I used to leave my job. I was a computer programmer analyst. We did both in the old days. And I used to leave my job on Wednesdays, grab a bagel and tea or coffee, run to the senior center, teach disco line dances for an hour, eat the bagel and tea in the car, and go back to work. So we invited the seniors. I was teaching and he was teaching at another senior center. We invited them to a real disco. And the DJ put the tracks on the music on the playlist, and he came out and danced with the ladies. And we did all
Nice.
of our line dances. We had, but I have to
Awesome.
tell you, talk about endurance, cool dude. I was a cool dudette in those days. We entered a dance-a-thon for muscular dystrophy. Remember Jerry Lewis's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, there was a dance-a-thon and we were closed into a windowless gymnasium at a local high school for 26 hours with about 100 other people. We raised money from friends and family we knew. I had somebody take care of my 2 young kids for the time. And we danced off and on all night long. I think we had two 20-minute breaks where they fed us carbs, jelly donuts, and bread and all that stuff. And when we came out the next day to daylight, the legs were, oh,
Yeah.
I couldn't walk for 2 days. I think my body was eating my muscles up just to survive. We raised a lot of money, and I donated some of the money I made to Michael so he could go to the local community college and get his degree. And that's
Oh,
how it works. So anyway, dance-a-thon,
nice.
those were the days. So my 3 songs for Saucy Dame are number one, Girls Just Want to Have Fun. What do you think I'm doing now? Homage to Cyndi Lauper, who just turned 70 something, and she looks great. Love the pink hair. She works hard for the money. Donna Summer, yes, I do. Always have. Dancing Queen by ABBA. Well, I think I've already proved that. And one more, It's My Party by Leslie Gore, and I'll cry if I want to. I'm making my own party
Nice.
these days.
Yeah, no, that
So
I think that totally describes everything you do. So yeah, I think they fit 100%.
thank you. I'm glad a cool dude has approved. Let's do the off the top Fast and Furious segment here. We'll go back and forth. This is not an interview, it's a conversation. So, your creativity superpower, Martin S. What do you love to do? What do you love about what you do? Or maybe not so much. What do you have?
So creativity superpower, I think I have to say coming up with new recipes based on sort of experience in cooking. And the context might be a little murky, but the context is the following. Kids come home after school, and you go from, okay, I don't know what we're doing today to I'm hungry, and you have about 30 minutes to throw something together. And then the creativity is you look in the fridge, you look in all the cabinets, and you
Mm-hmm.
decide that there is no recipe that fits this. And by the way, I think there's an AI solution as well that could help me. But what I've found is, taking sort of broad mix of everything and then throwing my own creativity at it sometimes works out the best way. So that's my creativity superpower. Love it. Sometimes a little stressful, but in general, I think I'm doing pretty well.
I'm going to parallel you. Usually, I say my ability to talk to people and help them smile, and that's one of my superpowers. And I talk to too many people, probably. However, or I share too much. However, I've recently come up with some at the spur of the moment recipes for homemade soup because it's getting cool here. I'm in East Tennessee. Believe it or not, it was 45 degrees last night. Oh
Yeah.
my! Turn the heat on a little bit, just a little bit. And so I came up with a recipe. I went out in my garden the other day, Martin, and I discovered about 3 dozen tomatoes that were ripe and ready that I had given up because a week before they were just green and hard. And it looked like we were going to end summer without these
Yeah.
ripening. So I brought out bowls and boxes and I put the tomatoes in. I cut up the parts that I didn't want around the stems and I took out, washed them well, and I put them in a pot, a cooking pot, medium soup pot with a little canola oil. And I use Johnny's seasoned salt. If you haven't tried it, it's a blend and it's phenomenal. I learned about it when I was living on the West Coast. You're in Seattle. I was in Eugene. And I buy it by the big container on Amazon, and then I fill the smaller one during the year. And then I added a cut up Vidalia onion. And I learned at my Food Lion store the other day that Vidalias are out of season now. You can get sweet onions, but not the Vidalias till next April. But Trader Joe's is still selling them. Don't tell anybody. So I cut up the onion and with the tomatoes and cooked it down a little bit. Then I added some chicken stock, not broth, seasoned
Yeah.
plain chicken stock. Then I added
Yeah.
some basil, oregano, a little bit of tarragon. You can't buy tarragon in the stores anymore. You got to buy it fresh and put it in the microwave 30 seconds, dry it, crumble it, and put it in a jar. They do not sell it wholesale retail anymore. You cannot find tarragon, which
Interesting.
drives me nuts. I have to find out why. And anyway, then I cook it up and then I had just bought some chicken small pieces and I hadn't quite frozen it because I wasn't going to use it. I took it out of the freezer and pulled apart a couple pieces, cut them small, threw that in, added more chicken stock, brought it up to not a lot, but just enough. And then I added 2 handfuls of wide egg noodles, curly egg noodles.
Ooh, yeah, that
Co-
sounds good.
Covered it and let it simmer for about 20 minutes. Unbelievable. And when I serve it to myself, because I live alone, I sprinkle it with fresh Locatelli Romano cheese, grated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you get it. You get
Yep.
it. Yep. So
Fantastic.
you and I have cooking superpowers. Let's go to the next topic. Coffee or tea? Which do you like? How do you make it? How do you brew it and drink it?
Split personality disorder. Lots of days coffee. French press preferred.
Mm.
Yeah, my wife screwed me on that one. I started with really bad coffee, and then she got me hooked on good one, and since then I can't go back. So that's that. But sometimes I sort of get to the I'm coffee addicted stage. So I have too much coffee, and my body tells me that I have too much coffee, and then I switch to tea. So I have a a tea that I sort of got hooked on. It's almost like a chocolatey taste. It doesn't have chocolatey in it, but it's sort of a great brand. Whoever's don't want to do any commercials, if anybody's interested, send me an email. But that
I,
so that's
I'm in,
what I
I'm
switch to.
interested. You'll tell me. I'm interested. Go ahead.
So that's kind of what I'm switching to, and usually in the wintertime. So wintertime is mostly tea. Summertime is more coffee, and yes, I'm switching it up. So that's kind of why I'm neither nor. So
Interesting. Well, I learned years ago that I can't tolerate caffeine anymore, even from decaf coffee. You will find me on the ceiling. You will have to peel me off and bring me down just the smallest amount. So I go to what the Brits call those dusty things in the little bags you dunk into hot water. Peppermint, spearmint, mint medley, whatever they call it. And I have a trick I use. I will put a mug of water into the microwave, minute and a half. Just before it gets really hot, I'll put the tea bag into it in the microwave and leave the tag hanging out. Finished another 20 seconds. If it's too hot and I want to drink it right away, I'll throw one ice cube in. Oh, sorry about that. Then I won't finish it. I'll let it come to room temperature and I'll put it in the fridge. During the
ah,
day or during the night, I will add water from the filtered water spout inside the fridge. I don't have one on the outside that takes up
yeah,
half the door. I have one, a little spigot inside. Fill it up with water and leave it. No cream, no sugar, no milk, no lemon, no sweetening, nothing. Just plain tea. And then for the next day or two, I keep refilling it and using up the rest of the peppermint flavor from the bag. And it's like a light iced tea without the
yeah.
lemon and the
I was just
sugar.
about to say. So you're sort of an iced tea person, really.
Kind of, sort of, yes, yes.
But
Next.
even though you're living south of the Mason-Dixon line, not sweetened, totally unsweetened,
No,
that's kind of
no,
unusual, isn't
no. Trying to, well,
it?
I take my sugar in other ways. I have a banana strawberry milkshake every morning, and I gave up with white sugar, brown sugar, any kind, except if I'm baking a little bit or making chocolate mousse. That's another story. And that's confectioner sugar. I'll give you a recipe later. And I put in, I buy organic agave syrup, AGAVE,
Yeah,
in
that's
a
good. Yeah,
very pretty, and I'll take a little squirt into 8 ounces of 1% milk and a little bit of frozen. I buy the sliced strawberries in a big bag frozen and keep them open in the freezer. Just take a handful, one banana, medium or small, not too
yep.
mushy, not hard. If you get a hard banana, it leaves a chalky
Yeah,
taste in your mouth all
yeah,
day. You don't
yeah,
want that.
yeah,
So I buy bananas 9 at a time every week, so I'll have enough to
yeah,
ripen during the week. And the agave, and then I'll blend it in an individual
yeah,
blender that takes about 12
yeah,
ounces. This will be about 8 to 10. Blend it. You pulse it
yeah.
on, and then I use the cup, and I use a reusable plastic straw that I have a brush to clean out with, and that's my breakfast. So I use agave.
Nice.
There's my sweetener. There you go. See how much we're
Interesting.
learning about each other.
Okay.
Next, Halloween, yay or nay?
Yes, clearly I still have two little kids, so totally in Halloween modes. We have the pumpkins. They are not carved yet. Last year I did two subsequent weekends. So yes, yay to Halloween. And it will be a good day. And this year, for a change, I'm actually home. Usually I'm on crazy business travel. So
Okay. Well, I live in a neighborhood that's mostly 55 plus. We're not a golden community or a retirement community. See, it just happened. They have people here with kids who are in high school and even younger, but I've been here 2 years and nobody goes trick or treating here because
well,
it's mostly.
you see, that's kind of where you have to sort of be a game changer. Just go to your neighbor and do an adult trick-or-treating. Maybe you'll get, some interesting response. So what I've found living in the middle of nowhere that there's peer pressure, You start mowing the lawn in front of your fence and suddenly neighbors start. You start putting out a sign that says, oh, this is the Stenzig residence. And suddenly, all your neighbors are getting a sign. So that wasn't intentional, by the way. I don't do this in order to sort of change the game, but
Yes, you do.
I found that sometimes you sort of have more. more power, indirect power than you actually think by just setting an example.
I was always the first on the dance floor too, Martin. So there
See?
you go. We understand each other. Yes, we do. Seasons. Oh, yeah, no Halloween here, and I haven't done costumes or candy. Well, I did buy some little mini Reese's, yeah, Reese's peanut butter cups, and I put them in the fridge, and I'm not telling anybody. Okay, seasons. Your favorite in ascending order, your least favorite season to your top favorite. What are your seasons?
At least favorite, probably fall.
Why?
Then
Why?
just because it's sort of the summer is over, the winter is not quite there yet. Usually it's rainy, but when we're talking least favorite to favorite, it's not that it's dramatically different. I like all seasons, and they all have their value to me, and all like them. But if you ask me to sort of put them in descending order, I would say fall, spring, winter, summer. Summer is my
Mm.
my I like summer, and partially because summers up here are fantastic. I live in Seattle, so we are, when we're doing summer and an average summer is sort of 70 to 80 degrees. So it's not
Yep,
the
it's
scorching
perfect.
hotness yet that you
Yep.
have in the rest of the country. So that's kind of why I like the summer. If I wouldn't like the summer, if I would be living in probably Dallas, Texas, I mean, that would be I couldn't handle it. So, but that's kind of what it is. But yeah, I love them all. They all are sort of having, and also reminding me of lots of good stuff. So it's
Okay.
just a matter of, granularity there.
Well, I'm going to tie spring and fall together for favorite seasons, but spring wins. My least favorite is summer because here I'm in East Tennessee, and we had 100+ degree temperatures this summer, and it was scorching, and we didn't have rain for weeks and weeks at a time. And my lawn treatment people, out of the 20 people I have taking care of property, different needs. You got a weeder, and you got a mower, and you got an irrigation person, and you got a mosquito control, and you got a dust mite. Yeah, you got everybody for everything. It's a big community thing. Anyway, yes, I like to watch in the spring, Martin, the plants come up. I live on a property that was planted about 20 years ago by the former owner, and there are mature trees of almost every genre here. I have everything from Japanese maples to a pear tree. I have three crepe myrtles. I have a magnolia on the lawn that's at least 40 feet tall that puts off leaves that are like frisbees. You could hurt yourself. I have the lawnmower people blow those on the lawn and mulch them with the lawnmower. They're so big. They go everywhere. I've got a knockout rose bush that's about 8 feet tall. I've got hydrangeas, a hydrangea tree that's about 12 feet tall. I've got a box elder that's about 100 feet tall that's wrapped with a wisteria vine and leaning at 25 degrees that the neighbors wanted me to cut, but the arborist told me it's still healthy. I have got butterfly trees. I have got, you name it. I've got wild zinnias that came from seeds across the street from a neighbor. And I have a garden of zinnias that's 5 feet tall by around 10 feet long that I never planted. Last year's tomatoes came up from the ground. I did not plant tomatoes this year, and I have probably hundreds of tomatoes they call them volunteer. This is a volunteer tomatoes, volunteer zinnias. You don't even want to know. I have trees and bushes I can't even name. So I love to watch, and hibiscus trees that come up out of the ground, plants. One of them is about 8 feet tall, and the blooms are about a foot in diameter, and another one that lies on the ground farther down on the front border. And it just
Nice.
and puts out, and they just overflow into the street. I have an easement of about 8 feet in front where people park when they're not supposed to. Anyway, the point is that spring, I think, has become my favorite.
Yeah.
Summer is just too oppressive here. Winter, I'm an October girl, recent birthday, but I like winter. I like the cold, but we had a snow that was so pervasive last winter, Martin. It's an unusual to get a snow like that. Everything was covered overnight in white. I mean, you could not see anything. The streets, the houses, any cars. I looked out and I got claustrophobic. I couldn't see anything defined outside. I wrote a poem about it. It's like, I hope they find me in time. I belong to a poetry group online. It was scary. So winter used to be my favorite. So those are my seasons. So summer down, winter next, and then fall, and then spring. There you go. Next topic. Movies, TV, genre, preferences. Do you like drama, fantasy, musical, romance, mystery, comedy, sci-fi, thriller, war, action? And who are your favorite actors and actresses? That's a lot. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm all over the place. It's not that I don't think I'm as clear cut as some other guys. So I would go with action, obviously. Love a good action movie, but not drama. I like, crazy enough is I like good dialogue. Smart dialogue somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But there are also movies when I give you my favorite movies, is probably, there are some in there that people say, okay, you're a typical guy, So The Shawshank Redemption is clearly, I think, number
Mm-hmm.
one. I can watch that, and have probably watched that millions of times by now. The next one is Top Gun 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I love those. And you said I can mix up movies with TV shows. Okay,
Sure.
I'm going
Anything.
all over the place. So
Go ahead.
um, so TV shows, in line with this Top Gun thing, there was a TV show that was called Jag,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
so like a mix of Top Gun and A Few Good Men, which then brings us to sort of, the I think both of those movies I can watch continuously as well. And as far as TV shows, there are a couple of other ones that I think are worth mentioning. West Wing doesn't run anymore, but I can binge that totally. And the other one that only unfortunately ran 3 seasons, but I loved it, was The Newsroom. Sort of
Ah.
also somewhat time critical, but I loved it. Also great dialogue. You have to actually sometimes watch it twice in order to sort of pick up on every nuance. But so that's kind of what it is. And if you look up the writer, you will see that there's a pattern there. Few Good
Mm-hmm.
Men, West Wing, Newsroom, they're all written by the same person. Um,
Aaron Sorkin.
Exactly. So I think he does fantastic stuff. So
Does.
and then there's a German one. It's called Tatort. That is more sort of a crime drama.
Tator. Yes, I've seen it. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So, and that is running since I've been a kid. So it's one of those staples where it's still running. I think they have some spin-offs now where it
Yep.
takes place in different places. But that's another one that certainly makes the list. So that's sort of the movies, TV shows. I could go on and on and on, but I don't think we would have enough time. So
You're a cool dude. Well, I'll tell you that I like the French language procedurals, and some of them are so well written, and they have. Okay, you mentioned Tatort, and being in different places. They have a French version called I'm sorry, it's called Murder in dot dot dot. It's in a different locale. It's 90 minutes. I used to speak fluent French, and now I keep the subtitles on in English. So you can't be doing something while otherwise you'll just hear wonderful French.
yeah, exactly.
So I'm getting accustomed to the actors and actresses who play in all these, and they're so famous, some of them, in this genre of detective and police procedurals, if you will, with beautiful locales and beautiful backgrounds, that I think MHZ and Walter Presents just did a promo saying Nicholas Gobb, G-O-B. He's a young man who plays a lot of detectives in shows. He was in the Art of the Crime, which was a phenomenal about. Never mind. It just a French show. He's so popular that they say coming soon, a double sequence of Nicholas Gobb in such and such. So they're promoting them as stars. But one of my favorites was Tandem. Uh, Stefan Blancafor, and I can't remember the name of the lady who was his wife, his divorced wife, and he worked for her in the police. And that Tandem, I think I watched about 15 seasons of that. It's probably still going. No, it ended. It ended with a happy scene. Alice Nevers is another one that should be coming back. Candice Renoir. Oh, what a show. Cecile Bois, Bois, like the woods in French. Phenomenal. She went for 10 years, had twins, had kids, raised her kids, went back into the police force. Everybody makes fun of her. She carries beautiful purses and she's gorgeous. And she knows how to solve crimes. She sees things other people don't see. And she solves crimes, and there's a romance with the guy who works for her and then somebody else, and
That's
he's
always
shot.
great.
And Stefan Blankenfort from Tandem is in it, and he's David, and he gets killed, and she's mourning him, and then she wants to go out with Antoine. And it's unbelievable. But I have to tell you, 2 weeks ago, my son came for my birthday and he said, Mom, have you ever seen The West Wing? And I said, No. And he said, shock and amazement, it's time. So we watched season one, 3 or 4 or 5 episodes. They're 42 minutes long. And since he left, I'm now on season 3, episode 2. I have
Nice.
been binging when I'm not working, mornings, afternoons,
I
nights
know
till
the
mid.
feeling.
Talk about writing. talk about writing, Martin. The writing is just unbelievable. And sad to say, a lot of it is applicable to today. A lot of the scenes and a lot of yeah. So if you haven't seen West Wing, I'm a huge fan right now, and the characters and Toby and Leo and Sam and Donna and CJ and the president and I still don't know why the first lady is a doctor who spends most of her time in New Hampshire and she's on the 15 medical boards and she's got a Harvard MD and she's brilliant. I like Stockard Channing. And by the way, if you look at the West Wing now, Martin, you will see guest appearances by people who have gone on to become major
I
TV
know.
and movie stars.
I know. Yeah.
And you will say, oh my God, was that's so and so?
Yeah.
Look, Jane Lynch, what was she, 12 when she did that? Oh my
Yeah.
God, there's Felicity Huffman. That was 15
Yeah.
years before Desperate House. Oh my,
Yeah.
and I'm looking up constantly. And you know, the names of the actors come on the screen if you push the stop button. I
Yeah.
like that. And so I'm saying, that
Yeah.
person went on to
Yeah.
star in there. It's like watching a who's who when they were
I know.
kids.
I
It's
know.
it's
I know there are
unbelievable.
few shows and movies that are like that for me. So I'm going back to it. I'm like, this is the who is who of, the
Yes,
today's cast essentially, the main castings and everything. So in Germany there was an old movie, a war movie that was called Das Boot. It's about Second World War submarine
I
movie.
remember it.
If
Yep.
you watch that,
Hmm.
every single person that plays in that movie has made a huge career. I mean, it's one
Really?
of those things where, you pick one movie that drove careers for pretty much everybody that was part of it, that's the movie. So
Das Boat. I remember that. I do. Interesting. We have some similar tastes. I'm not a Top Gun. I saw Top Gun. I didn't see part two, but I love the procedurals and the Murder In is so glorious because it's different locales, different plots. They always have somebody who used to work together, or her sister got promoted and she didn't, or they're divorced, or it's an unknown brother. You know, there's always a familial or social relationship that is yet to be revealed during the show. But I love the locales. Okay. It's time. Always on this show, we do wacky headlines. These are not weird and odd and scary. These are unusual stories most people might not have seen or read about or heard about. So why don't we do one for you, one for me? And do you have three for me today, Martin?
yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
First two are better. This third one is just sort of it's a guy thing, I think.
Well,
So
that's why you're here as the
yeah.
you're the official first
So,
cool dude, by the way.
so let's start with number one.
Do you want to share?
Assimilate.
Do you have a visual you want to share?
No, I just
Okay,
I'm reading it to you.
go ahead.
AI simulation gives people a glimpse of their potential future self.
Ooh.
Is one of those for me when I read that, I'm like, I don't know if I should be happy or sad or scared about this because do I really want to know what my future self looks like? I might be a
Mm-hmm.
20-year-old guy, so this is you can go into this. You shouldn't know too much of yourself before you get into it because you might influence the future type thing. Yeah, it's like
Mm-hmm.
I think we've all seen those movies. So, but the summary here is the future you is a generative AI tool that enables users to have a simulated conversation with a potential version of their future selves. The chatbot is meant to reduce users' anxiety, which in my case, it wouldn't reduce it, it would just
No,
amplify
no.
it, improve positive emotions, and guide them toward making better everyday choices. Now,
Ah.
I listen coming from technology, I know that somebody thought that might be a good idea. I'm not sure whether or not it is, but that too easy. Now I'll leave it
Wh-
open for criticism. So
Where is this app? Is there a name to this chat bot that you can
no, it's the
find it?
Massachusetts Institute of Technology that did it.
MIT.
I'll send you
Yeah.
the link to it in the public press release. But it's like it's one of those things where I'm like, we have so many AI models right now, and I hope that some of them that will just fall by the wayside and will come to the conclusion that yeah, it sounded like a good idea, but really wasn't, and let's just get rid of them right away.
Well,
So
isn't that like going to a fortune teller or having your tarot cards read?
exactly,
Is, who wants to know?
at
And
least you can
people,
walk out of it and say it's not based on science. I don't
there
know if
you
this is based on
there you
science,
go.
but
That's a little
wonderful show.
scary. I don't think I want to know, but part of me is saying, gee, that sounds interesting. No, I don't think so. I think I've done with that. I want to visually share this first story. I picked these in honor of you, Martin, because you, well, first of all, tech, and second of all, here we go. Okay. Drones will soon be deployed to clear trash from Mount Everest, known as the world's highest garbage dump. At 29,000 plus feet, Everest is the tallest mountain in the world above sea level. Climbers leave a footprint. 94 tons of waste was collected. Can you see the picture here? Let me make it bigger.
Yes.
94. Hold on. Let me grab it here. Here we go. This is part of Everest here. You can see 94 tons of waste was collected from the mountain this spring from the climbing season, which reported 60,000 people trek to the base camp annually. There was a rule saying, listen to this, you have a $4,000 garbage deposit that's only refunded if you come back to base with 17.6 pounds of trash, Martin. However, local Sherpas do most of the carrying, and they have to cross a river of ice over half a mile long. So they are turning to Chinese, here's another picture, Chinese drone manufacturer to lessen the danger. In March of next year, they'll deploy advanced technology to fly into high altitude zones and take waste from what has been called the world's highest garbage dump. Is that something?
I mean, technology, amazing, great. I think now me as a technology guy says, okay, they are probably just using the drone to sort of, do the transport, but people still have to collect it. Now I want the drone to find the damn garbage and pick it up and sort of, get it out there. So that's sort of the next evolution. But let's start from the beginning. Why can we not just have people that take the garbage up there, take the garbage back down? So that's probably the weird guy in me that sort of says that if you're schlepping 60,000 pounds of garbage up the mountain, can we not just have people force them to take their stuff back down? And isn't that the most normal thing on the planet rather than just dumping their
Well,
stuff on
that's
top
the
of the mountain?
$4,000 deposit. That's the idea. But
But I
can you
mean, what?
imagine, Martin, 17 pounds of garbage? How many wrappers would you have? What would you bring with you? How many plastic bottles for water? 17 pounds of garbage?
And you would think that people that's going up that mountain appreciate nature enough to not just leave that stuff around. It's like this is
One
sort of
would
where I'm
think.
like I'm not getting it. But
OTT was over the top for this show. We're going to rename it 1OWT. One would think. We got an
yeah,
OW.
okay,
One
I
would
love
think. I
that.
have a new segment. So what's your second article? Go ahead.
Okay. The headline was, and that's sort of what sparked it. Electronic tongue reveals AI inner thoughts. Researchers recently developed electronic tongue capabilities of identifying differences in similar liquids, such as milk with varying water content,
Mhm.
um, diverse products, including soda types and coffee blends, signs of spoilage in fruit juices, and instances of food safety concerns. They found that results were even more accurate when artificial intelligence used its own assessment parameters to interpret the data generated by the electronic tongue. So it's one of those things. Just the visual is just,
You
I'm
want
like,
to show
anyway.
the visual? Do you want to share it? Do you
No,
have
no,
it?
there is no visual. There's like
Okay.
the visual that
The thought.
headline created in my head was just one of those. I don't know if I want to go there.
I agree. I can taste the difference in milk. And I remember living in Cambridge, Massachusetts one summer. We had a little convenience store almost across the street from our house and on the corner. And I remember returning milk so many times. And I said, this milk has gone bad, or they're using chemicals in it. There was a funny taste, like a sub taste in the milk. Obviously, I'm a milk drinker. My father, Martin, my father was a doctor, a radiologist, and he loved milk. And my mom and dad would go out to dinner. They go to fancy restaurants with friends, and people would be ordering an after dinner drink or a fancy coffee, cappuccino, espresso, whatever. And my dad would say, can I have a glass of milk with my dessert?
Nice.
And I have to share this with you. I haven't told this to too many people. After my dad passed, my mother had a memorial luncheon in his honor in Florida. They were in Boca at the time, and people were asked to bring a story or a joke. My dad was a joke teller as well as a doctor. That's how he got his patients to relax. People were asked to bring a story about Joe or a joke that he would enjoy. They had a microphone set up, and people shared these stories and jokes. we went back to the condo, and my mother, my sister, I think my son and my daughter were both there. And all of a sudden we heard an explosion in the house. I mean loud. We opened the refrigerator in the kitchen. A glass of ice cold milk had exploded to smithereens inside the fridge the day of my dad's memorial.
Wow.
I
Wow.
know. I know. I know. If that
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
give you,
that's
yeah,
sick.
let's just leave that there. So I haven't shared that on radio or any of my shows, but that's how much of a, and we knew right away. Dad was saying, I'm still here. It
Yeah,
was
that's
unbelievable.
awesome.
Before I cry, the next one is in honor of you. I did the first tech one. I'm going to share this desktop screen. Here we go. Okay, share. Here we go. No Sunny, just share. This is October 14th is the anniversary of Chuck Yeager breaking the sound barrier, Martin. And here's a picture of
Nice.
him on an autumn day in Southern California, SoCal, people call it. U.S. Air Force Captain Charles E. Chuck Yeager became the first person to fly an aircraft faster than the speed of sound, or Mach 1. Built specifically for that purpose, the plane, which he nicknamed Glamorous Glennis in honor of his wife, they named it, was air launched from the bomb bay of a Boeing B-29 and reached 700 miles an hour, which is Mach 1.06. Before the flight, many believed an invisible barrier would destroy any plane traveling at such speeds. Yeager was quoted as saying, I realized that the mission had to end in a letdown because the real barrier wasn't in the sky, but in our knowledge and experience of supersonic flight. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, what we have done, we as a society have done back then, and the last 40, 50 years have been fairly subtle. I
Mm-hmm.
think SpaceX is sort of putting a good new spin onto sort of breaking new barriers. So it's really impressive what they are doing. Also the efficiency gains. I mean, that's sort of as a business guy, looking at sort of 20 to 25% efficiency gains in the business, that's dramatic. And what we have had in the past 30, 40 years is sort of like the increase by 5%, 2% here. Yes, we have faster computers, but we haven't really done much with it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think good news is sort of SpaceX is sort of putting it out there to sort of like, okay, fail fast, and if you blow up a rocket once in a while, that's not a bad thing. You're learning a lot of
Oh,
stuff.
well.
You should learn a lot of stuff out of it. And yes, if nobody's on board, obviously, but it's like, it's that whole fail fast
Fail
paradigm that
often.
we
Yep.
have in computer science these days. Which is good. It's going in the right direction. But yeah, back then I find it remarkable that these guys sort of put themselves out there and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, astonishing. I
Yep.
mean,
First
fantastic.
in flight, the Wright brothers, right? Nobody
Yeah,
thought they could do it. What's your
yeah.
third story?
The Air Force bought 1,760 PlayStation 3 to merge them together to make a supercomputer.
What?
It's one of those things as a guy, yeah, I guess they wanted to build a supercomputer in order to process satellite imagery, significantly cheaper than what it would cost to
Mm-hmm.
buy a real supercomputer. And they came up with this glorious idea and turned it around to just use PlayStations. And really, when you think of it, it's like I've advocated that for so long. The gaming industry is pushing the boundaries of, AI. If you're looking back at NVIDIA, and I always tell people this, and some people might not know, NVIDIA didn't start out as an AI company. They started out as a computer graphics company for,
Mm-hmm.
gaming, super gaming graphics cards. The AI thing sort of fell out of it. But this is sort of the same thing. It's like, hey, we have a lot of technologies that is out there. Just, plugging it together in the right way today is the right answer. You don't have to be a rocket scientist in order to come up with something brand new. There's so many cool technologies. If you can just put them together in the right way, we can make leaps in society, but also in the business. So yeah, I found that really, really interesting. Just, that the Air Force is using PlayStation 3. It's one of those, yeah.
I'm going to have to rename this segment of the show. Say what?
Yeah,
instead of whack.
exactly.
Say what? I have one more that's interesting. I'm going to share a picture as well. Let me do this. This is our last share here. Screen. Here we go. Okay. Headline. In the 1930s, a skyscraper was rotated 90 degrees while everyone kept working inside. Talk about
What?
technology. Yes. Say what? Martin, this is phenomenal. In the 1929, the Indiana Bell Telephone Company, remember when it was Bell Telephone,
Yeah.
purchased the Central Union Telephone Company along with its eight-story headquarters in downtown Evansville, Indiana, as part of a plan to majorly, they like that word, expand its footprint in the area. First, they were going to demolish the Central Union Telephone Building, which had the admin offices and the switchboards. But Kurt Vonnegut Sr., he's the father of the author, Kurt Vonnegut Jr., he was an architect. And he said, don't tear it down. Why don't we move it 52 feet sideways, followed by a 90-degree turn, and expand from there? It didn't just work, it was a success. Not only did the eight-story 11,000, say what? Not only did the eight-story 11,000-ton building end up safely in its new location, the offices remained fully operational during the month-long moving process with no disruptions to phone service. Now, seriously, Martin, I'm in Tennessee, and we get, three wind blows outside, and our computer service goes down, everything goes down. Here's the deal: the move was an impressive feat of engineering. The building's support columns were lifted from their cast iron bases at the foundation, and each was put on a temporary steel support. The elevator shaft was modified to keep the car from going into the now non-existent basement, like don't go down another level. 18 manually operated jacks moved the supports along a series of rollers, 3/8 of an inch at a time. That's the genius, I think. 3/8 of an inch at a time. And the building traveled roughly 15 inches per hour. Workers had to be careful to move all the columns at the same pace, so they'd follow the lead of the construction foreman. It's like, don't be smoking or drinking on the job. You better see what this guy's telling you, who blew a whistle to say it was time to pull the levers or levers. Engineers kept an eye on the alignment with a plumb bob. If a roller started to shift out of position, they'd whack it with a sledgehammer. Talk about high tech. When it was time for the 90-degree pivot, they had to lift the building to adjust the rollers. Steam engines attached to cables helped power the final movement, rotating the structure into place. Ultimately, the building sat within 1/16th of an inch of its planned destination. During the move, the 600 employees entered and exited the building from the sidewalk via a movable bridge. Would you have gone to work that day?
But this is the funny thing. I just did the math in my head. That's 10 feet in an 8-hour shift. So you're walking into the building in
Yep.
one location and you're coming out at a different location. You better not, tie your bicycle to the fence post
I,
anywhere
I
because
think the
you might.
sidewalk was a movable feast. So they say reportedly the workers inside didn't feel the movement. The project made way for a 7-story limestone Art Deco building completed in 1932 and now on the National Register of Historic Places. The company continued to add to the campus. The original building was demolished in 1963 to make room. Is that a story or what?
I love it. Yeah, no, that's great. Like,
I'm,
you're
I'm
sitting in the
good.
building and the building is moving around you. It's like it's a little scary, but I'm like
It's a
I
lot scary. It's not a
mean,
little scary. What would you say?
yeah.
But what would you say, Martin, today? What if you say somebody said, okay, you're working this really cool modern building. It's a green building and it's certified and all that. Well, we're going to move it, let's say 20 feet so that we're exposing some, I don't know, an oil well underneath the building.
I would
Would you go
say
to
I'm
work?
doing home office today.
Yeah, yeah, talk about working from home, right?
I
So,
know.
Martin, I have to congratulate you. I don't have any awards for you, any banners, any stickers, anything. You are my first cool dude, and I have to do a shout out to our mutual friend and our mutual colleague, Sherry Ann Meyer, who said, cool dude, you got to talk to Martin. He's the one. And I asked you, and you said, sure, Bonnie D, I'll be there. So I want to thank you. Any comments you want to make to other cool dudes and encourage them to come and
No,
talk to
and
me?
listen, for anybody who wants to follow me, and thanks for being the first one. Thanks for having me as the first guy. Um, It's a pleasure, always a pleasure to be on shows with you. So thanks
Thank
for
you.
all the work you're doing, all the work you're also doing on educating everybody. And
Thank
no, I
you.
can only highly recommend it. It's fun, and if ever you want to have me back, I'm happy to
I'd be
be
happy to.
around.
By the way, Sherry's done 11 of these with me on the two Saucy Dames. Martin, one question for you. If some person is scratching their head and saying, am I really a cool dude? Would I qualify to talk to Bonnie D? How would you define cool dude? Just in a couple of sentences. What would be your top line definition? We didn't rehearse this, kids. This is off the top. Martin, what would you say? How would somebody know if they're a cool dude? Because we know you are. What do you think?
That's a tough one. You stumped me
Ah.
on that one, I have to admit. But let me think about it. No, I think you're a cool dude if you are not arrogant but self-assured,
Ooh.
if you are smart but not, necessarily book smart, if you are appreciative, and don't take other people for granted, you know, look for that as sort of a starting point. And not to say that I'm all of those, I'm striving to, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But people, I think that aiming to be that person, that's sort of the cool dude in my book. So.
And what about fun? And what about aware of the world? And what
Oh yeah,
about
well that's that goes without
appreciating
saying. If
culture and reading and always learning, always looking
Yeah.
for knowledge?
It's
And
it's it's yeah, you could go on and on and on that track, but
there you
yes,
go.
all of the things you just mentioned. Um, and I think the one thing we have in common as cool dudes is we always realize that unfortunately the day only has 24 hours and you have to sleep at some point in time. So never enough hours in the day.
I got a smart sleep number bed, used to be called Smart Select Comfort. And my daughter said to me, Mom, it's been 25 years. So she took me and had me spend a lot of money, bought a new bed. And I didn't realize it at the time. It checks and records my biometrics automatically, Martin. So when I get up in the morning, I can see how many hours or minutes of restful sleep and how many times I got up. We're not talking about that. And how long it took me to fall asleep. And it gives me weekly and monthly summaries. I've only had it for a month and I didn't. So I'm learning about 24 hours. I think there are a lot more hours in the day, and I think some of us who are cool and saucy are using those hours. But you do gotta sleep. I'm going to put the music on to keep me from getting in trouble. Martin, I will welcome you back, and I will tell you that the young man in Paris, Serge Hoffman, with two N's on the end of Hoffman, who is the composer and the singer of my song "So You Want to Be," he's probably going to be my next cool dude on this show. So there you go. Here, let's play the music, and we'll wave when we go out. Can you hear it?
Yep.
So you wanna be
That's Serge.
a cool kid,
That's my lyrics.
hanging with the ink and looking real cool and fine. Asking you thanking
Dance with me.
so you wanna be
Here we go, the drum roll. Bop, 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 bop. Here we go. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Martin S., you are a cool dude. You're the first one on the show, and I appreciate you. Anybody have any comments? Find me at